This is Step Stool Sarah, and you're listening to Wrestling Cheers.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, even if you were on already about 6 months ago. This is Wrestling Cheers. We like to talk about things going on Northeast Ohio independent wrestling scene. We preview shows, we review shows, and sometimes we even have interviews along the way. This is a special interview with the return of Step Stool Sarah. I am your host, Justin Summers, and Wrestling Cheers is brought to you by the Trending Topics Network and Midwest Territory. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com, and we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Like I said, this is another interview with Step Stool Sarah, and, well, with quarantine going on, it's not in person, and with her being so far away, this is online, so welcome back, Step Stool Sarah.
Howdy, my dude.
How are things going for you in this these trying times?
I mean, as best as they could. I don't know, man. I'm sitting in my car right now, drinking a White Monster, of course.
On brand.
This is all of this is very normal for me. Hanging out in my car.
At least you're not doing a TikTok video right now that we know of.
I mean, you never know. you never know. I could be doing anything right now.
But yeah, this is such a crazy time with all this, and it's completely screwed up how I do a show, because I should have covered like a couple like AIW shows by now, and I think this week would have been an interview with PME. That's out the window.
Oh no, that's so sad. They're the best.
Well, they'll eventually. Well, they've been on, trying to get them back on, but in person with a.
In person is way better with them.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing with too. Like, you've been on, you were in person, but it was after a show. We had Gary J just watching over us, and like you could even tell by like our conversation, like we're like rushing it.
Yeah, my carload was ready to leave after that Black Label show. That is for certain.
So we get to relax a little bit tonight, and so many words shoot to shit, because I don't really have a lot of questions for you. Like, I've done a lot of like listening to podcasts you've been on, and there's a lot of your story that's been told. So we're gonna just try to get into some just genuine conversation, because that is the one thing you've done a lot. Mm-hmm. Just so many aspects of professional wrestling. You haven't even been a fan that long. That's crazy. Like, I think I've been a fan of independent wrestling longer than you've just been a fan of wrestling, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just where we all come in. I mean, this is the way I look at it. You're here. It's all that matters.
And I've come a long way in a little bit that I've been around in just independent wrestling, which is unreal to me still.
I mean, you're called Step Stool Sarah, but you're just climbing a ladder.
Get out of here.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, of just like we were talking a little bit before we started recording of everything you've done, with photography, announcing, and now commentary more, and you valeted, and I mean, are you and J-Rose in a battle of who can do more? I mean, he's got an edge on you, but so if you can learn some video and all that kind of stuff, you might catch up with him.
I mean, I do have photography over him though, so.
Okay.
And he doesn't do a lot of backstage interview stuff, so I kind of have that up on him. So he's successes at being really good on Twitter, and even though he'll say that he's not, and he's really good at video stuff, and he's good at graphics, and he's good at ring announcing. So in a way, I think we're like semi-tied, but I do a little little bit more, unless he's got some hidden things that I don't know about.
It's the great thing about IWTV and all that. Love you both, and like with you, like I said, you've done so much in a short amount of time. Like what's next? Like what do you want to conquer next, or what do you want to like dabble in?
Oh God, I don't know. I feel like I've done everything that I want to do, and now I think I want to focus on really like owning my craft, especially with being new to commentary. It's definitely my weakest link right now. So I'm trying to use this time off to watch wrestling, and not just like watch the wrestling, but like listen to the commentary so I can learn things and do better, because I have a ridiculous amount to learn and try to comprehend so that I can take that and use it and be a really good commentator. Especially because in the wrestling world, it's only kind of now more like, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like more so like there's more females doing commentary now. Yes. There's not that many, but it's definitely more than ever before, because, you know, you've got, you know, Renee Young, you've got Beth Phoenix, and then like, I don't know who else right now, but like, then I'm, you know, coming up in the indie world, and a lot of people, you know, have said really good things about me so far, which really means a lot. So that's something that I definitely want to keep progressing in, because like I said, you know, it's not common for women to be on commentary. And obviously, if you guys know me and know who I am and what I stand for, it's very important that wrestling is for everyone, and that like women and non-binary and whomever that's not a straight cis male get to have, you know, huge opportunities in wrestling. And also valeting is another thing that I want to start doing more, and, you know, perfect that, and, you know, tie in like managing with that. So those are like two things that I don't get to do very often, that I definitely know that I can improve on. But other than that, I don't really know anything else in the wrestling world that I really want to do, because I definitely don't want to wrestle and I don't want to ref. And that's pretty much all that's left, really.
I mean, if we can get you in like one match as a ref, I mean, you kind of did a little bit as a wrestler, and you can have a little bit as a ref, just to kind of like touch the base, but not necessarily go full force in it. But I do think you're right. I think we're in an interesting time, in my own opinion, with not only just professional wrestling, but the world. I remember when Renee Young first started doing commentary, and friends that I know were just totally anti her. And I think she's come a long way to where I don't hear that anymore. And we are getting people like Beth Phoenix. We are getting, like, on independent scene, people like you and another Sarah Shockey. And I think it's becoming a little more prevalent. And I think there's just what I noticed within the past year of getting that whole male dominated culture out of wrestling. Like, when something's going on, if against female wrestlers or whatnot, like, let's let it be known. If someone feels uncomfortable at a show, let's try to make them feel comfortable. And, you know, I've seen both sides of it. I think I've seen some fans locally that kind of took it some of those like complaints a little too far, but I've also seen where we're trying to make fans welcome. Like, I remember the Bizarro show I went to, and Nick Iggy made a comment at the end of the show, which to me, I didn't catch it. Like, I didn't see what the problem was, but then afterwards going online and hearing people, it was like, okay, like, let's try to work on this. And like, am I the perfect person for all this stuff? No, I've made my mistakes in the past and everything, and some things I've changed my opinion on. But I think at the end of the day, I want all my friends, no matter who they are, to be safe at a show. And I know that is so hard to police, because I've heard people talk about in Cleveland that there are like certain pockets of fans that aren't as welcoming. And it's hard for me to speak about that because I'm not in that pocket. Everybody seems to have a better attitude where I'm at, but everybody's so different. And that's, I think, one thing we're really trying to work on.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Wrestling in general has come like a really long way. And it's definitely on a path to be better. And even I am still learning a lot of things. because there is so much to learn and educate yourself on. And like with the Nick Iggy thing, like as soon as he said it, I was just like in complete and utter shock. And like I looked around and I could like see the look on like other people's faces that like understood. And then like I definitely like online saw like both sides of it, like where people like didn't understand. And then I obviously saw, you know, like the sides of like all the people who were like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And then, but it was nice to see, you know, people understanding though, and coming to terms with trying to like, you know why this was wrong. And like I said, there's so much to learn, and we all have definite ways to better ourselves and learn and keep growing as people. And, you know, some people are going to take things one way and people are going to take it the other way. So no one's ever going to be perfect, and it's all trial and error. That's for sure.
I think like I said, as long as we strive as a whole to do better. And I think it's there, but it's going to take a long time. Like there was 2 incidents at an AIW show. One is more well known than the other, I think. One, a fan yelled the F word to Ethan Page. And this was like before the match started, and Ethan Page grabbed the microphone and berated the fan for using it. And then there was another older Southern wrestler that tried to use that same word in a match against 2 other wrestlers. And that was a complete no-go. Cause like when I see moments like that as a fan, where like, I don't think there was anybody cheering him. He said it, and then like, it was just admitted, no, that doesn't fly. Like, and like, there's people that kind of give him a pass. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fans that don't. And I think like that's where we are. And that's why when I hear like about those pockets of fans at shows, I'm like, well, I don't know. I was at a show and the word was said by a wrestler, and that didn't fly at all.
Yeah. Like luckily I haven't heard any like wrestlers like say it like during shows. I know there was an Anarchy show, just this last year where there was a fan, sitting in the back row, right in front of like where I was standing. Like, cause you can always see me on hard cam, and this fan was like right in front of me, and he yelled like, a homophobic slur or something. And I just like went up to him and I said, excuse me, what did you say? And he boldly repeated it to me. And I was like, absolutely not, like, no. And I just like, I walked off, and, luckily like Evan Jalistico was around, and he kind of like got things, you know, figured out and settled. And, we haven't had any issues since, luckily. And I always give my pre-show speech, before we go live, so that I can get into the show very quickly. But I do give my pre-show, speech at Anarchy. It's just like right before we go live. And I always tell people, like, even like when you hear me at, Black Label shows, I always say I have an open door policy. You know, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you know, please bring them to me if there's something you don't understand or maybe need more clarification on, or you just want to have, you know, a conversation about it to get like a better understanding of things. Like, I'm always willing to have those conversations with people, even if they don't have the same mindset that I do. It's always, you know, better to, you know, have that open door policy so that you can make people feel, you know, comfortable, even if you do have that, you know, opposite mindset, so that maybe they will be willing to be more open-minded and like change the way that they do things. Cause I know sometimes people are drinking and, you know, they'll just say things, or, you know, it's just, they don't understand like why it's wrong, and it'll just come out like a normal word, you know? So it's always weird and crazy.
I mean, I think too, there's so many words like within the past 20 years that have been, changed of like whether we're using it. One word that I always consider it's along the same words of that is the R word. When like that was being prevalent of used, I was dating someone who's now my ex, and her brother had low functioning autism. So that was a word like she didn't use, and like she kind of got me out of using it too. And if I ever used it, because before I was a truck driver, I was in printing, and that was actually a word we used as a technical term. It was the opposite of advancing something, but you wouldn't exactly have a hard D on it. It would just be, you need to retard that. But it was a technical term, and I've always understood that. And even that, I've been out of it so long, I don't even know if it's used. But it was just more of how you described moving something on the particular image instead of just up, down, left, right, because to explain it really quick is up, down, left, right was opposite of what it actually was. So you had to explain in a little bit different terms. And now, like, I've gone back and, like, listened to things from, like, the 2000s or, like, even early 2010s, and, like, you know, that word was used. And now we're working on it. Like, I think that's, like, a word that doesn't get used anymore. And I think we can do the same with the F word, too. Like, we've proven that we can get rid of a word, especially with the connotations that, like, some of these words have. And, like, to me, the F word doesn't mean much. But when I've heard people talk about what they went through at school, makes me go, oh, that brings you nightmares. That brings back bad memories. I get it.
Yeah, and, like, it's so wild. Like, I was watching Can't Hardly Wait the other night on Netflix. Shout out to Steve Guy for letting everyone know it was up on Netflix. And that movie's from 1998. And when they're at the party, the whole room popped for that jock bully getting called a fag. And I'm like, this was a time back then, you know. That was just normal. And, like, it's crazy to see how far we've come just even from that. And I'm like, a whole party got popped just because of that guy getting called that word. And like, it's just crazy. But, like, even still nowadays, like there are times where, you know, people are still doing that, or, like, people just have, like, extremely, like, fragile masculinity, and it's just, like, really sad.
So how much do you hate men?
I don't think it's as much as I lead on.
I loved it last week on your podcast, for those who don't know, it's Evolution Baby, when, like, you had mentioned that, and Brian was just like, yeah, thanks.
I have a strong dislike for, like, a huge part of the male population. They just disgust me. But there's a lot of good ones. I will admit that. Obviously, me being pansexual, I like everyone. But growing up, like, I've always been more, like, fancied to men, just because it's always been easier for me to meet men. And they always let me down, which is really funny. Oh, God. I don't hate men that much. Just a little.
We're all pieces of shit, one way or another.
Absolutely.
I'll talk about men. Like, I know we're horrible. Whenever I was dating, one of my favorite things to, like, talk to women about that I was, like, meeting on these dates was their experience on dating apps. Because compared to what I was going through, it was a night and day difference. And, like, my fiance now, when, like, our second date, we started talking about that. And she told me, like, this one guy, like, wrote her poetry as, like, and we're talking, like, first message conversations, things that they're trying to say. Like I said, one was, like, poetry. The other one was, like, talking about how they should get together because they both have cats or something. And the biggest what the fuck to me was she actually received a message from her ex-boyfriend trying to get back with her. And I'm just like, wow. Like, she was only on dating sites for the dating site for a short amount of time. I was on for, like, a year, and my interactions were a fraction of what hers was. And I mean interactions, like, when, like, people sending messages and everything, and, like, the things that I know, like, dudes say, I'm like, wow, no, I didn't act like that. And number two, no one acted like that to me, so I don't know where anybody gets these ideas.
I don't mess with dating apps because I just feel like they're a waste of time, but I deal with wrestling Twitter, and that's, I feel like, just as bad as dating apps, if not worse.
You could be like Lou Fisto, which I gotta give her credit how she handled this, where, like, one dude sent her a naked picture, and, like, she just screenshot it and sent it out. Didn't censor anything, just put it out there. And I'm like, that's, no pun intended, ballsy, but I love it because it's just like, well, if you're going to send me this, I'm going to send it out. You've been, like, other people, you've been warned. This will be you.
Oh, as much as I would have loved to do that a few months ago when I got one from the serial sender that sent it to me and Alley Cat and multiple other people, I don't want to see it multiple times and keep getting the notification about it. So just putting it on blast in general was good enough for me without the screenshot. But goddamn.
How hard is it being a woman in independent wrestling right now? Like, I mean, you do all these things, and you're pretty well known. Even before we started talking and becoming friends, I knew who you were. I think first because of Savage Stash, when you became a sponsored, not necessarily athlete, but a sponsored person. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I've never heard of her. And then, like, as time goes on, I'm like, oh, okay, like, I'm learning more.
It's very interesting, especially now that I do, like, sex work. It's kind of, like, put me on, like, different radars. So I get, like, all different kinds of messages, especially when I'm selling content. So like, that's always really interesting. I even had a person make a burner account on Twitter just to try and buy my pictures. And I'm like, you know what? No, I don't like, I wanted to question them and be like, so why'd you make this account that just came up in April of 2020? And I'm the only person that you follow. Who are you? Why are you being so secretive, coward? But like, I don't know, it's so weird. Like, I know that you've listened to many of the other interviews and stuff that I've been on, and this is something that I repeat over and over again, that if you would have told me at my first indie show that I would be where I am now, like, I literally would not believe you, and I would laugh in your face. Like, it's wild. Like, I've been noticed, like, by people randomly, like, in St. Louis. Like, it hasn't happened, like, recently, but like one time I like got recognized at the mall, and then like when I worked at Home Depot, someone recognized me, and then like when I came to Cleveland when I was at the AIW show in December, like there were people who knew who I was, and I'm just like, oh, this is wild. Like, whoa.
See, that was the funny thing. Like we've talked about this before. I can't remember if we talked about it in the first interview. I didn't listen. I re-listened to like part of it only because I want to make sure I didn't ask the same 5 questions. But like, I first met you at Southern Underground Pro, but we didn't meet. That was the first time we were in the same room, and I have this fear of, like, coming off like a weirdo. So, like, I didn't want to just be like, hey, I've seen you online. So, like, I kept my distance. And, like, even where I was standing, it was the same side of the ring you were taking pictures on. So, like, we were probably feet from each other, and, like, you didn't know who I was, but I obviously knew who you were. And then there was a tweet you sent out, just saying like, hey, what are like memories you have of me? And I was like, well, we've been in the room once, but like, I didn't want to come off weird or anything. So I just didn't say anything. You're like, oh, you should have came up and said hi. Let me know the next time you do that. We're in a show together. I think because you thought it would be Southern Underground Pro. Unfortunately, or not, unfortunately, it was Black Label Pro. And I walked up to you, showed you the tweet, and I'm like, well, hi, this is me.
Oh, that was great. And we got a picture together.
I felt, okay, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about. I've had one regret that we've never talked about with that picture is I'm a big dumb male, and like, I don't think before I do things, and I put my arm on you because like, you're short, ha ha ha. And then I thought about it later. I'm like, oh, maybe I should ask her about that because that might have came off wrong.
No, I didn't think anything of it. I honestly don't even remember how I felt then, but I'm sure it was okay. I've definitely like been in a lot of awkward situations with people, you know, wanting to take pictures of with me, you know, between wrestling stuff and then between doing cosplay at conventions. So I've definitely had weird or more uncomfortable situations happen. That's for sure.
We had at least had the benefit of Effie photobombing us because that might be my favorite part.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think that is another thing that speaks a lot. We were talking about professional wrestling right now. Effie is one of the most successful, most well-known independent wrestlers, and he's openly gay. And I had friends years ago who always kind of proposed a gay wrestler, but it was always like someone playing the part. And I always kept saying like, I don't know if it would ever come off good or well enough if it was somebody just playing the part. And then when Effie hit the scene, I'm like, that's how you do it. Because he's not that, Effie's being Effie. And I would say it's hard to hate Effie, but maybe if you're from certain parts of the country, or if you have certain political or religious backgrounds, maybe you don't. But to me, he's the greatest. And side note, I haven't had the experience, but one of the best interviews that I've ever heard because he's he's just a storyteller. I love Effie.
He's an angel, and I miss him so much. Effie hugs are the best. Oh, God. Oh, such an angel. I'm glad that, like, one of my last few wrestling shows was freelance. And I was like, hey, can I walk out and hold the curtain open for you and show off your pro homo shirt that I'm wearing? And he's like, oh, yeah, duh. And that was, like, the greatest thing ever. And I'm glad that that was, like, one of the last wrestling shows that I was at and that I got to do that. And it was so special. And he gave me a big hug. And then I went back to the locker room, and I just watched him wrestle. And he's just so majestic and powerful and everything.
His show was one of the few that I was really upset didn't happen for WrestleMania weekend. That's up there. For the Culture's up there. Faye Jackson show is definitely up there.
Oh,
there was just so much, like, between those, like, 3 shows, and also, like, I think the Danhausen show too. That was another one I was kind of looking forward to. But I think because where we were starting to head with the Effie show, of, like, you had to proclaim that you were bisexual to be in the, or yeah, you were bi-curious. That's the right word. You had to be in the first, or one of the first announcements was Nick Gage.
That fucking killed me. I was like, Effie, you're fucking ridiculous. What the hell?
It was like really right at that time, like, everything happened with the coronavirus, and I'm like, I wanted to see where we were going with this. This whole show was looking amazing, and having the bi-curious battle royal, I wanted to see all the participants. This was going to be great.
Oh my God, I know. I was looking forward to that, and then, of course, Faye's show, and I was supposed to be at the Chase Holiday Memorial show.
Yes, that one too.
God, I wanted that to happen so bad. Everything is ruined, and I hate it.
How many cosplays do you do?
Just the Raven.
Just the Raven.
For now, and it's still pretty much a work in progress. It's come further than when I started it, but it's still very rough. I would love to do more. I just get really anxious and overwhelmed when I come up with ideas, and I know that, like, I suck really bad at, like, putting things together, but I eventually would like to do more. Like, I know someone told me I should do Daria, and I was like, I've definitely considered that, because I very much am Daria, in a way. So that would be fun. And I mean, I've got, like, other ideas, but I don't know, maybe one day.
I know I've said Daria. Like, it just seems fitting. Like, if there's anybody that's going to do it, let it be you. And I think it would come off great.
That would be so fun. But yeah, unfortunately, cosplaying and stuff like that comes second to, like, wrestling and, like, everything else. And I don't get to go to as many cons as I would like to. But I at least have my Raven cosplay, and it's always a hit, even though there's always a million other Ravens. That's fine. A lot of people have said that I need to combine Wrestler Raven and my Teen Titans Raven, and I think I might do that, even though a lot of people at cons might not get it, but it'd be fun.
There's a con here in Ohio. I forget the name off the top of my head, but it's in Sandusky, if I'm correct, and it's at, like, this big hotel, and there's actually a night that Mega Wrestling hosts a show there, and they have wrestlers cosplay.
Oh, I think Mikey Montgomery told me about this before.
Yes, it is. I've never been, but I think it's actually a really cool thing. I've seen, like, a lot of pictures and, like, hearing some of the ideas. Like, you see PME, I think, were the Mario Brothers one year, which is, like, duh. If you're gonna, like, have them cosplay as anything, you do that.
Oh yeah.
Jackson Stone, spelled Jackson, not to be confused with the other one. He did Thanos, but I think he did, like, Thanos in I don't think I got the right movie, but I think, like, a cross with, like, Debo, like one of the bigger
From Friday.
Maybe from Friday, but, like, it's like a character like that.
Okay.
So it fit perfect. So seeing stuff like that, I think it is awesome. And like, I've always tried to do cosplay, but there's like, it takes so much effort. I don't have anywhere close to the skill. I have to be able to like buy stuff to like wear. Like, I got Ghostbuster stuff, but not like a few $1,000 Proton pack that you have to like buy and piece together or all that kind of stuff. Like, I kind of just have the regular ones you buy at Halloween store. Looks okay. It did great for me when I walked through a haunted house because that was kind of my goal. I wanted to look like a Ghostbuster walking through a haunted house and just having fun with it because those things do not scare me. I'm kind of working on a Macho Man thing because I've had the classic purple Macho Man shirt for a while, and then I seen last week that they came out with Macho Man Zubaz, and I found the bandana that kind of matches with it that he wore in that era, same with the sunglasses. I have a Winged Eagle Championship belt. I kind of have a Macho Man cosplay, and I wasn't necessarily trying to, but it all works.
There you go. My Raven just started out as like a Halloween costume, and my friend, she made the cape for me, and then I eventually started making, like, I made the parts for my belt, and then the part that goes around like the clasp I just made out of like mason jar lids.
Okay.
Which I've had to like repair many a times because they've fallen apart, and I need to like reach out to Kate Nix, Ophidian's wife, and be like, hey, do you have any suggestions on like what might be better for this? Because she's like a genius at that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, it's very rough and like a work in progress, but I mean, it works well, and people always compliment me at cons and want to take pictures of me or with me, so that makes me feel good. But I'm like, I know it could be better.
That's the thing too. Like, I'm kind of with you. Not saying that you could do better, but just like that feeling. I feel like when you go into a con, there's going to be plenty of people who are doing the same costume, and like there'll be people who are just starting off, people who have been going to cons for years, so it's been perfected, and then you get the ones that are just so perfect, where it's like that could be in a movie. Like, I remember, like, I'm a huge Thanos fan, and when someone first like went to Comic-Con dressed like Thanos, I mean, it's been going on for years, but there was one that's just like, it's like this head to toe costume, and it looks movie accurate. But I think it was before like Infinity War, just of like all the detail that went into it. It was like, it was that level. And it's just like, I did the same thing for Halloween, and I just bought purple face paint, bought the wrong kind because it didn't like really stick on well enough. I bought purple hairspray because I wasn't shaving my head. I'm full. It's weird. I'm full committal, but it depends. The next year I did a Eugene Belcher.
Okay.
And I shaved, because you want to talk about an easy costume for a pretty heavy boy. Like, it's just perfect. I bought the burger suit and everything. Like, I felt like Gene Belcher. But the year before, when I was Thanos, yeah, it was just like, I did the best I could.
I've still been debating, and I have it saved on my Amazon, is doing a wig. So far, I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, obviously, but that's like one of like the last few things that I need that I don't have, but I still am not sure if I want to do a wig yet or not, because I've never done one before. So, but that would be like the last like final like real piece that I would need to like complete it, other than trying to like make a better belt. Yeah,
it's definitely a good costume, because I've seen the pictures, and I've seen like, I think there was at least one where like you're with a few other people who are dressed like Raven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was the most recent con that I went to last year, and I was like, oh my god, can we do a picture together? This is perfect timing. And like those were like 2 out of like a bajillion other Ravens that were around. And then I actually ended up hanging out with a friend of mine who's a wrestler from around here. He was dressed up as Beast Boy, and his girlfriend was dressed up as Raven. So we all hung out for a while. Which is, I'm like, wow, what are the chances? Ha 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 ha. Oh, and funny thing about that same con, there was a guy dressed up as Spider-Man, but he'd be walking around without a mask on, and he looked just like Tom Holland. Like, swear to God, like, it was uncanny. And it freaked me out.
Who's your favorite Spider-Man?
Toby was a good one, but I think I really like Tom Holland. He's just very unique.
He definitely fit more of the, I believe he's an actual kid vibe. Mm-hmm. And I'll probably go with he's my favorite just because of that. But I think when it comes to the movies, besides how great the new one is, there's something about those cheesy Tobey Maguire movies, and I'm a huge fan of 2. And it's crazy because I'm actually not a huge Spider-Man fan, but 2 with like Doc Ock and all that, I love that movie.
Oh. Yeah, but another funny con story that I have is I was at another one last year, and I'm walking around in my Raven cosplay, and this guy starts to harass me to try and get me to say like the saying that Raven says, which I'm drawing a blank right now on it, but it's like the 3 words, and he's like, say it, and I'm like, no, and he's like, oh, well, you don't know it, and I'm like, can you leave me the fuck alone? Like, why are you harassing me right now? Like, what the hell? It was like, oh god, some people are just fucking bizarre.
Was it
wild?
Was the phrase "wrong Mandalorian"?
Oh my god! Don't get me fucking started on that. I was wearing shorts in my car the other day, and and I looked down at my leg because my right leg is a half Star Wars leg sleeve, and I looked at my Boba Fett tattoo, and I just said, "That's the wrong Mandalorian." That guy, like, what the fuck was he trying to do? Like, bruh, like, Boba Fett's a fucking Mandalorian, and this is the way, is the saying of the Mandalorian. So, like, just because Boba Fett wasn't in the Mandalorian and he hasn't said it doesn't fucking mean I'm wrong.
That's fandoms.
That's when I hate men. Like, fuck. God. Irritating.
I don't know. Like, I mean, that's where I agree. Like, there is like a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to fandoms. And I mean, if there's the only fandom you could properly gatekeep for is Ghostbusters, only because there is Zool, the gatekeeper.
Literally.
I have a side note. I have a picture of my dog. Her name is Zool. And when I was living with my one friend, he had a fenced-in backyard, and then I took a picture of her sitting behind the gate. And I call it, like, when I show people, I'm like, look, the gatekeeper.
Oh my god, that is so perfect. Oh, I love it. I support that fully. But yeah, being a female in all of these different, like, pop culture, like, subgroups, like wrestling and, like, doing cosplaying and just being into stuff like that. Like, men just love shitting on women. And, like, even in, like before I got into wrestling, like, hardcore music was, like, a big part of my life. And, like, even then, men are like, oh, you like that band? Oh, name, 5 of their songs. Or, like, what are 5 of their albums? And I'm just like, go fucking sit on a stick. Like, get out of my face. It's irritating.
That's something I've never really understood. I think it comes from, like, maybe when you're in high school, where you, like, really hold some sort of fandom, whether it be music or whatever, like, close. And you don't want people to infringe on it. Like, I felt like I dealt with it more than anything growing up being an ICP fan. And, like, there were, like, girls in my school that, like, wore some ICP stuff. And I know me and my best friend looked at it as, like, we're loners, we're, like, outcasts. Like ICP speaks to us. Well, why is ICP speaking to you? And, like, at that time, I understood. I'm not saying I was right, but I understood why I thought that way. But now as an adult, I go, well, I don't know what their home life was like. Maybe that, like, there was something that spoke to them about that and all that kind of stuff. But like, it has to be like this, like, childish high school bullshit of, like, why people do that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, why does it matter? Like I mentioned earlier, like, as, like, kind of a joke, or it was a joke, not kind of, it was. Like, I've been an independent wrestling fan longer than you've been a fan, but that doesn't negate your fandom. Like, I mean, we're both here. We're both enjoying wrestling. It's just, I have memories of, watching Owen Hart when he was alive. You don't. But that's fine. You can still go back and watch it.
Which is the best.
What all have you watched during this quarantine, like matches that you've been told like go watch it?
Well, I made that tweet and I had a whole thread, and I need to go back and look through that again. I've been doing a really bad job of keeping up with like watching things. But I did watch WrestleMania 20, and then Colin Delaney told me that I have to go watch 19, so I started doing that. I watched the first match of Samoa Joe and Necro Butcher yesterday, which I don't know why I put that off for so long. Definitely unintentional, but goddamn, I could watch that literally forever. I still need to watch the rematch. But I don't know. I've been trying to like go back and watch things. I want to watch more ECW stuff for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to watch more like WCW. And like I have all this time.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Have you watched like any of the documentaries, like with ECW?
No, I have not seen any of the documentaries yet, but that's definitely something on my to watch list, is trying to obviously watch as much as I can. So I'm always open to anything and everything suggestion wise.
I think before you dive into like any of the ECW stuff, maybe try that. I'm kind of with you on stuff, because like I became a fan in 1993. Like 93, 94, maybe a little bit prior to 2000. I mean, 1992, almost said 2002. Clearly a different decade. But I gradually started watching because my dad was a fan, and I went from like glancing at the TV from time to time to kind of getting into learning who like some wrestlers were, but I didn't really concentrate on storylines until 93. But I remember just vaguely watching stuff. But anyway, there's matches and events like I never went back and rewatched. Like my first WrestleMania was WrestleMania 10. I feel like I was blessed because I was blessed with Bret Hart versus Owen Hart as the opening match. And then a few matches later, Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels, Intercontinental title ladder match. Both so iconic, and I go back and watch them every so once in a while. But I've had to like randomly go back, and I'm like, all right, let me watch 9, because everybody bitches about 9. Over the weekend, because I mentioned, I bought all this like Macho Man stuff. I was like, let me watch some of the early Macho Man WrestleMania matches that I've heard about. Like, let's watch. I think I started at 3 with Macho Man and Steamboat, which is a classic. The only thing that I hate about like watching these matches, I watched that versus Ted DiBiase at WrestleMania 4 main event, and then I watched WrestleMania 5 mixed tag match, him and Sherry versus Dusty and Sapphire. But like I know who won every match, so that sort of takes me out of it. Like I would love to just sit down and be like, oh, I don't know who won between of all matches, Steamboat versus Macho Man, because like everybody talks about it, but to actually have that, like what's gonna happen, like I could feel the vibe, but since like I knew who won and everything, and I know like it's like one of those matches that was plotted out before the match, move by move by move from beginning to end, that it somewhat takes me out of it. But it's still fun to watch.
I think it's been really fun for me to like go back and watch all these things like for the first time, and it's just like unreal because there's just like so much that's happened, and I want to be able to like be part of the conversation that everyone has, because like so many people that I'm around are such an encyclopedia for wrestling, and I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about right now. Like I feel so dumb. I was like, I haven't seen any of this stuff, but like I want to be part of the conversation, but like I don't know, and there's just like so much to watch, so it's like always hard to like be part of that though, like in general, because like some people don't watch other things that people watch, or like some people aren't into that kind of thing. So I want to get at least caught up on all of the like really important things that I missed out on.
I think one of my favorite shows, if you would go back and watch it, but it is a long one, SummerSlam 92. It means a lot to me because that was something I had on VHS.
Okay.
And I used to watch the shit out of it. Like I watched wrestling when it was on, but I mean back at that time it was like you watched it Monday night and like Saturday and Sunday. Like, that was kind of it. So if you wanted to watch anything else, you had to record stuff, or maybe you went out and bought the VHSs. And my parents bought for me SummerSlam '92, and this was like years later. And I love that whole event from beginning to end. And the network has like 2 extra matches that weren't on my VHS, which feels so weird watching them. But it's the main event of that one was Bulldog versus Brett, and it's still like, I think when a lot of people talk about SummerSlam, like that's one match in general that they talk about.
Just for you, I'm gonna watch that this week.
Okay. What's been some of the, like, your favorite things you've, like, rewatched that really stuck out? Like, oh man, this was really awesome. Or like some of your favorite wrestlers that maybe you didn't have the same fondness for, that you like maybe changed a little bit.
Oh God, I haven't gotten to anything like that yet. It'll come eventually though, as I keep working my way through things and trying to like catch up on like the stuff that was happening kind of when I first got into wrestling about 8 years ago. Like that's the kind of stuff that I really want to go back and watch and just try and see like what sparks memories of like, how the hell did I get into wrestling? Like what drew me into it? Because like that's always a question, like as you've heard on like all these podcasts that I've been on, like, you know, like what drew you into wrestling? And I literally don't remember. Like I literally just one day decided to get into wrestling and started watching WWE and stuff again. Well, for the first time, but like as I've mentioned before, like I had the skateboard of Stone Cold when I was in 4th grade, and then I had the Attitude Era game for PlayStation. Like that was like the only wrestling I had in my life as a kid. Like I never actually watched it, but then like 8 years ago is like when I actually like got into it. So like that's the kind of stuff I need to go back and rewatch and see like what I remember happening back then, because like my memory is shit. Like I have the worst memory ever, and like people will like ask me questions and my mind will just go completely blank, and I don't know why, and it sucks, and I wish that it wasn't that way, but it is. So I'm sorry to anyone who will ask me questions and I don't have answers for them.
I'll at least give you credit that you're always really quick at responding to messages, so that's even like when we first started like corresponding and like getting you on the show the first time, and that's at least in my experience is rare. I'm just always on my phone, and I like being a really good communicator. Yeah. Which sucks because it's very easy for people to like be really crappy at like responding to me, or just like completely ghost me, which happens to me a lot actually. So like I always try and be, you know, like a really good and like fast responder, unless like someone sends me a creepy weird message, then like that doesn't get responded to as fast or at all. But like I can usually tell people's intentions when they're messaging me, and so it's pretty easy to like respond back to people that deserve it pretty fast. Has anybody ever told you about like how bad WCW was at the end?
I feel like I vaguely have heard things, but not specifically.
That might be like another dive. Like definitely, I would put SummerSlam '92 way above it, but that's like a part of time that I lived through. But trying to explain what WCW was in like at the year 2000, and then the few weeks that they were open for the, like 2.5 months, if that, for 2001, like, like it's weird. Because like I know a lot of people who love WCW. It was never my thing, but there's like a lot of it that I will always be like, yeah, it was better than most, but like at the end it was like just strange. And like to explain to somebody who wasn't a fan at that time, I don't think I can do it justice. But it was, I mean, like one of the last pay-per-views, or whether it happened or not, was like Greed, and they were trying to like do the, like, I think the 7 Deadly Sins as pay-per-view names, and like it was going in a crazy direction.
That sounds interesting.
What's your favorite thing to do in wrestling?
Oh God, I get asked this question, and I don't know. People are always like, "Well, do you like ring announcing, or do you like photography more?" And I just feel like everything that I do in wrestling is just so vastly different. Mm-hmm. Like, especially like when it comes to photography, because that's something that I've been doing for like over 10 years and something that I went to school for. So it's obviously very different than anything else that I do in wrestling that is all still very new to me within the last 4 years. But I love everything equally. But if I had to rank it, I think it would go ring announcing, photography, backstage interviews, valeting, commentary.
And you're newer to commentary, so that I think you could kill it more. I don't think I've had a chance to watch anything that you've commentated on yet, but I've been a little behind on some IWTV stuff.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, because like me and Sarah Shockey, which I apologize earlier for forgetting to mention her as a female commentator, which is really funny because we do Black Label Pro pre-show commentary together. So I apologize for forgetting that. She's great. But like we do that together, and then like the Bizarro show before this last one, I did 2 matches with Jesse, and then the last Bizarro show, it was me main commentary all night with people coming in and filling in. And then I just recently did my debut for Without a Cause from their February show, which I had to do at home alone, post-show commentary for my first time ever. And oh boy, that was so stressful and so weird to be watching wrestling alone and commentating it and like having to react and do it like I'm there. And I just didn't feel like I gave my all. Because I mean, obviously it's something new to me, like not just commentary in general, but like doing it alone and at home is definitely like a huge like triple whammy there. So I just didn't feel like I was like as genuine as you would be, for a live show. But I mean, people said that I did really good, and somehow J Rose said that that's the best commentary that I've done, and I just like was like, are you sure? Like, what? Are you watching the same show that I did? Like, did they do something? Because I didn't watch that show because I was not ready to hear myself. Wait, that's another thing. Like, I hate listening to myself back. Like, I hate watching like myself ring announce. Like, unless like I have to go back and watch the show. Like, I won't go back and listen to my podcast. Like, I won't listen to things that I was interviewed on. I won't listen to my commentary. Like, I can't. It freaks me out.
Good thing you don't have to go back and edit your podcast.
Yeah, thank God. Thank you, Brian, for handling all of that. Oh, God.
I feel like I can handle my voice, but there's times that I'm just like, oh, why do people fucking listen to me talk? Like, I'm saying this on my own show, but whatever. But like, I definitely have those moments where I'm just like, oh, why do people care?
Oh man, I don't want to like listen to things and like know that like I messed up, or like I'll just go back and like judge myself or like critique myself like way too hard, and then just get like really wrapped up in that, and like, I just can't. Like, last year after Mania Week, I went to the Airbnb I was actually supposed to stay at, which was like all of the IFHY people and like Mouse and Billy and them. And then also like it was like a huge like 3-story house, and like on another level was like all the Black Label Pro people. And like I went there with this person that I was dating at the time, which is going to remain unnamed because it wasn't even a real relationship, but I digress. And we went to watch the Spring Break show that was happening after our Black Label show. And so we watched Spring Break, and then Mikey from Black Label was like, oh, let's go back and watch our show. And I said, nope, I gotta go bye. God, because like that show had me like so stressed because there were so many changes that happened that no one gave me a heads up on, and it freaked me out. And then like I had to buy time before our last match, and like you can just like see me in the ring just like freaking out. Like I was just, oh, what a mess. Good times.
Like I've said before, you're in my top 5 of like ring announcers, and I do think it's good to, like, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I do think we should get more women out there. And actually there's 2 women in my top 5, you and Kat.
Hell yeah, I love Kat. What an angel.
She's fantastic, and I think she's filled in a couple ring announcing spots around here, and I think she did better than the person she replaced, or the people she replaced, and I want to see it more. Like, will she be in AIW anytime soon? Well, not that the rate Steve Guy's going, because he's a mainstay. It's weird to even think that there was a ring announcer in between Pedro and Steve Guy. And Steve Guy was a last-minute fill-in For those who don't know, like I've known Steve Guy way before he was a ring announcer, and I was there the day when he looked at me and someone else and said, I gotta go get my suit. They want me to ring announce tonight, because he was filling in, and he's been killing it ever since. Now he's such a staple in AIW. But like when it comes to ring announcers, like, or just things in general, just getting more women out there, and I think to have such a face like yours and Kat, or just voices like yours, just examples that you guys are giving, like, women can do it. And there's probably more women out there, but I don't think it's many, and I don't think it's enough.
That's true. Yeah.
So when you get women like you and her, it's a good example, and I'm 100% for it. And I know I got to sit down and watch. Maybe I'll put a note to do it this week, since you're going to watch SummerSlam, of watching that. Was it Bizarro, where you and Jesse had a couple matches?
Yeah. Why am I drawing a blank on the show name? So the most recent one was Ghost in a Machine. Yeah. And then
the end of the year one, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Whatever was before Ghost in a Machine is the one that me and Jesse did. 2 matches. I did the I did the Lee and Trip match, and then the main event, which was Warhorse and Tankman. So those are the matches that I did on that previous Bizarro show before the last one. And I'm actually really looking forward to working with Jesse full time whenever wrestling is back and we can be back at Bizarro, because I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from him. And I feel like on that show we had really, really good chemistry together, and it just flowed really well, which makes a lot of sense because we are the same in a bajillion ways.
The same, but opposites, and just mixed together so well. Like he's another one that I always put in my top 5 for ring announcers. And I've given him, I know I've said it privately, but I don't know if I've ever said it publicly. I call him the Pedro DeLuca of Southern Underground Pro. Pedro DeLuca, legendary ring announcer in the Cleveland area. But when I first started coming, he actually did a little bit of both. He would ring announce, and then certain matches, he would be back at commentary. And he was so good at both. But it came to be a time where he couldn't do both. He couldn't go back and forth as easily, so he just stuck with ring announcing. And Jesse, he kills it on commentary. Like, I love him and Dylan. And then when he went back to being a ring announcer. I'm like, he's the voice there of Southern Underground Pro. Like, Stephen McCash was all right as a ring announcer, but when it comes to that sound that I'm going to identify with the Basement East and Southern Underground Pro, it's Jesse. So if he does either of them, he's killing it. If he could ever do both, it'd be killing it too, but that's why I compare him to Pedro. If you get a chance, I want to say late 2011, maybe early 2012, but at least the last 2 shows of 2011 from AIW on independentwrestling.tv. Use promo code STEPSTOOL, correct?
Yes.
Get 5 days. Like, you can hear those, and just I always speak highly of it, because like he was like my first ring announcer, and then like going back and like listening to his commentary, I'm like, oh my god, he's so good.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
That's the other like cool thing. I wish I had enough time to do it, but like you're talking about going back and watching like all these like big, like some of these like bigger WWE stuff. You are dipping in independence, but where we are with like, you can stream like, it seems like anything right now, and especially with like IWTV, it's getting bigger and bigger and better and better. Like the fact that like newer AIW shows are going up right now, like amazes me, because that's something that I've always felt like AIW kind of lacked. Like it was cool to, like when the Black Label Pro show is done, it goes up quick. When St. Louis Anarchy show is done, it goes up quick. Same with Bizarro and like all the other promotions. But AIW was a show that they weren't getting a lot of new stuff up, and now I can go back and rewatch stuff, or I can pull people in and be like, listen, like, watch AIW. Here it is. $10 a month. Just do it.
It's perfection, and I love it. It's so fun. It's great. We're spoiled.
We are. That's I don't want like all this like really cool stuff to go away. Like if IWTV like folded tomorrow, besides being heartbroken, like we don't have to tape trade.
Yeah.
I can watch Black Label Pro from home. I can watch Southern Underground Pro from home. If it wasn't for like, promotion like Southern Underground Pro, I wouldn't know who like O'Shea Edwards and Brett Eisen are. And I wouldn't be someone who's like advocating to get them in Cleveland.
Oh man, that'd be so fun.
Like I'm so big. Like Levi Everett was a dude that I think when I was at Bizarro, I looked at my friend Charlie and I was like, if he were to debut in AIW, just give him one match. I think the AIW crowd would love him because we like weird stuff. We like things that aren't normal. And I'm like, I just see him coming out. Like I compare him to somebody like Space Monkey.
Yeah.
Where we love Space Monkey. Space Monkey hasn't been around in over a year, and I think he would still get the same reaction because he's fucking Space Monkey.
I was just saying on the podcast earlier when we were recording that I miss Space Monkey and his singles run because just like the way that the crowd reacts to him and just like everything about it is so good. It's such a chaotic energy, but it's just so positive and so fun. And oh god, I love Space Pirates. Don't get me wrong. Shane Saber is great too. But like Space Monkey singles is that fun, quirky, different that wrestling needs. And like you're saying with Levi, just giving him one match, literally anywhere, any promotion, he is going to get over with the fans. Like when I knew that he was going to debut for Freelance, I was like, that crowd is going to fucking eat him up and love him. And he will do that literally anywhere. Same with Anarchy. Same with, like anything, anywhere. And that it's, oh God, I love Levi and I love Space Monkey and I love weird, fun wrestling.
The more places I see Levi, the happier I get. Like he's a dude that I think should be everywhere.
Yeah. Perfection. I love it. Oh, I miss wrestling. God damn it. It's so sad.
One day we'll like look back at this time and just go like, like it wasn't that bad. It didn't last that long, but now like we're in the middle of it. It's just like, and we don't know when it's gonna end. Like I forget how many shows that because I've tried, like this year I've tried to keep a list of every show I'm going to. So I kind of have it's basically a running list of started at the beginning of the year and like shows that I know are coming up and all that stuff. Like looking at it right now, I have like 8 shows crossed off that were canceled.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. And like I have bookings for June. Like I'm, debuting at Ohio Wrestling Alliance, and I'm like, there's no way that that's happening. Like if St. Louis has already canceled 4th of July, and like I've heard that like the governor of Ohio is already canceling summer events. So I'm like, there's no way that this show's going to happen, which really sucks because Anarchy is the day before that OWA show. And I was like, I get to ring announce 2 days in a row and I get to go back to Ohio. Like, but like the logical side of me knows that like it's not going to happen, and that's just so depressing.
I think that's something that a lot of promoters are struggling with because I've seen promotions promoting stuff, and then I've seen Ziggy call that shit out and being like, like all these promotions who are promoting, you look like clowns.
Yeah. Oh, it's so depressing.
Yeah, that's gonna suck if that gets canceled for you.
For real, like, because who knows, like, when another wrestling show is actually going to happen, because as I said last week on my podcast, like, everything is so uncertain right now. And like I even like mentioned, I wonder how many of these, like AEW and NXT and WWE has had changed their storylines because of all of this affecting everything. And we don't know when things are going to be normal again. We don't know when anything is going to happen again, when we're going to be allowed to be in groups again. Because even today on the podcast, I was talking about how even once all of this is somewhat cleared up, like people are going to be afraid to be in groups again, and there's still a huge risk of it spreading again, because like until we have like an actual vaccine or like a cure, this shit's around and it's not going anywhere. And like that's the most terrifying thing ever, and like things are ruined for a long time.
Yeah, that it's like when everything first started happening, you at least thought like, like this will be like a little bit and we're gonna miss some shows here and there. But it's creeping into all this kind of stuff. And I've even heard, but granted, I think it's speculation and all that kind of stuff, rumor and innuendo that, there might not be like big group gatherings until like October of next year. Yeah, that's
It's so spooky. Like I say all the time, like this shit just, it doesn't feel real at all. Like it's not real to me. Like it's real, but it's not, if that makes sense.
It's a weird time, and I think for me, like I'm still going to work. Like I'm working my regular 5 days a week. Like the only thing that's changed is like I don't do anything on the weekend. This past weekend I did a couple things, but like mostly it's I come home Friday after work. We do running to the store. Like we go to Aldi, we go to our local store, and we go to Walmart. Mm-hmm. And then like when I come home, I'm not driving in my car until Monday morning when I go back to work.
Whew, God, this is all just so eerie and spooky. Like I hate hanging out in my house all the time just because my living situation isn't really the best. So I hate being in my house all the time. So like I just hang out in my car, or I'll hang out on my porch if it's nice enough, or I'll just randomly drive around. There's just like nothing to do, and it sucks.
Or you go and start making TikTok videos.
Yeah. TikTok is definitely become more of a hobby of mine. Obviously people know that I've done random dance videos before, but now that like TikTok is more of a thing, it's been really fun to dabble with that. And it's really nice, like whenever I do put out like random goofy videos, like having people tell me that it brightens their day or makes them happy and smile, just makes me feel really good and makes me keep wanting to do it. And it really means a lot to me.
I feel like I'm a fairly creative person, but I've had so much trouble with TikTok. Whenever I start up a new account, like on like a social media and everything, I always kind of like pick a fairly recent picture. And when I recently re-downloaded the TikTok app, and I was like, all right, let me, like, you can get to my profile really easy. I'm like, let me see how old this account is. The picture that I used was from like the end of 2015. I never created a video, because to me, like, do you remember Dub Smash?
Yes.
I loved Dub Smash. I had like some really funny Chris Farley videos. Like that's what
nice.
like friends of mine loved me doing. So I found like all these like quotes from him, and I was doing them, and like I was over the road truck driver at the time. I was like just trying to find ways to do it. Like some of just like, it was some shitty lighting sometimes, some I made it work, but God, like that's what I went for. And like when I'm like, oh, this TikTok's going to be just like it. No, like I just re-looked through it. I'm like, oh, maybe because I got all this Macho Man stuff, I could do some funny Macho Man stuff. Not a lot. And I'm like, damn it, I gotta learn how to do this shit.
Yeah, I definitely will just like scroll through for like hours or a while and just like try and get some ideas, or just to kind of depends on what mood I'm in. But I feel like during all this, like I've been trying to be creative, but it's just like I feel like I'm stuck in such a depressive funk through all this, just because my life has completely changed, that it's hard to try and find any like source of creativity, but I'm doing my best.
That's all that matters, and you seem like you're having fun.
Yeah, I do have some fun. That's for sure. It's even really funny, like when I'm doing the TikToks, like where my phone's sitting on my like the back of my car, and like people will be walking by or like driving by, and I'm like, hey, don't mind me.
Like when you're like dancing in your car.
Yeah,
it's not like just a regular
my
dancing.
neighbors just like find it normal now for me to just be sitting in my car, because like my sister, she parks her car in front of me, and like she sits in her car now too to get out of the house. And there was like one day where like I'm sitting in the car like looking at TikTok or like playing Animal Crossing or something, and she walks out with like a plate of food and like gets in her car, and I was like, yeah, this is normal life now. It's so bizarre.
All right, we've gone on a long time. We've drained your AirPods, we've drained your iPad. So let's start to wrap this show up with the Faye 5 questions.
Hey, this is Booker T, 5-time champ, and this is the Faye 5 questions. Now, can you dig it?
All right, you've answered some of these before, and I don't remember if I said it here, because I think I said before we started recording that I've been using It's Evolution Baby when I submit questions as the, the official, unofficial third co-host?
Yeah.
Like when I submit questions, like some of them, like, oh, like I like that. I want to keep it, and I'm going to use it in Fave 5 questions. So I know, like, I don't want to do those. Let's start with, I don't think I've asked this one. Pancakes or waffles?
Oh, yeah, I don't think you've asked that one. Oh goodness. I think this is one of those things that it comes down to, like, where it's from.
Okay.
But I think pancakes more, and my favorite pancakes are from Cracker Barrel.
I was just thinking recently, like, that's one thing that I miss right now is Cracker Barrel. Like, we were driving around yesterday, and we drove by a Cracker Barrel, and I was like, wow, that's the, like, most dead I've ever seen a Cracker Barrel on a Sunday, like, on Easter Sunday at that. Holy shit.
I actually had Cracker Barrel last Saturday. That was my meal that I ate during Wrestlemania. I had some meatloaf. I was like, this just sounded so good and just wholesome, and I just want, like, a good meal since, like, I can't be hanging out with people and, you know, watching this. I was like, I have to do something to make myself happy.
All right, question number 2. How do you feel about ketchup on hot dogs?
It's not bad. I'll eat it. Sometimes I like plain hot dogs, but, like, ketchup on hot dogs isn't bad. I like ketchup.
It's definitely one of those things. I think if you're from Chicago or, like, within the suburbs of it, it's blasphemy.
Yeah, that's always really funny. Chicago people are just so strange about things. But we're strange about things in St. Louis, too, so, like, I can't really say much, so.
We're all strange. Like, I feel like it's a big Midwest thing outside of Chicago to put ketchup on hot dogs. Like, to me, like, when I've mentioned that to people, that's like, what? Isn't that what everybody does? And I'm like, well, if you talk to anybody from Chicago, you can put anything on there, but there's even a place here not here in Cleveland, because I'm not in Cleveland, but, you know, in Cleveland, that they do Fruit Loops on hot dogs.
Oh, that's not okay. That's weird.
I haven't had it, but people live by it. Like,
it doesn't sound right. Like, that's not a good mixture.
You would think so. Like, I grew up liking taking my pizza, because it was just, this is how 2 things that were served at lunch at the same time, and I dipped it one in the other. Pizza in applesauce.
Okay, what the fuck? What?
Seriously.
What? Excuse me?
Yes. I took pizza, dipped it in applesauce, because they were served, like, always on Friday. And to one-up it, when we'd get Papa John's, I would get the garlic sauce, put it in the applesauce, mix it up, and then dip it.
I'm about to hang up. You are excommunicated from being the 3rd official unofficial co-host of It's Evolution, baby. Like, you just did it. Sir.
I told you, like, it's just one of those...
I wish I could time travel to you doing this and just bitch slap you.
Here's the funny thing. Everybody that I knew when I first started doing it, they thought I was crazy. Then they tried it, and they're like, you know what? This is pretty good.
You're lying. Bullshit.
No.
I know bullshit. No, sir. Where did you grow up? That's not... Y'all are not normal.
Grew up in a little town called Rootstown, Ohio.
Well, you know what? I grew up in St. Louis, and that... I don't even... Oh, I can't wrap my mind around this for real. What?
Yeah.
You're the reason that coronavirus is around because of that.
That's mean.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
That was a little too far. But what that... You put garlic
Sauce and applesauce. And then take the pizza. It's almost no different than pineapple on pizza. Almost.
I don't do that. I don't judge people for doing that. I'm judging you for what you did. I don't judge people for doing pineapple on pizza. It's not my cup of tea. It's normal. What you did, no, sir. Well, give me the next question, please. I can't handle this anymore.
I'm so buying pizza soon with applesauce. Well, my fiance likes, she will put applesauce in her macaroni and cheese.
I feel like I haven't fully dabbled with that, but like at my babysitter's house, which is actually on the corner that I'm looking at it right now, she's dead. but there's some doctor guy that lives there now. But she would always make us like good lunch meals every day, and like there would always be like applesauce. And I feel like I somewhat dabbled like in mixing the two, but not like full on, but just because like they would like touch each other and it would just happen.
See, and that's how it started with me with pizza and applesauce. They were touching each other.
Okay, but you just, and then you took it a whole step further, and I'm just like, oh my god.
I would say don't knock it till you tried it, but I don't think many people want to try that, so it's fine.
You couldn't even pay me to try that. No.
Let's go question number 3. How do you feel about applesauce on pizza? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I can't wait to see you in person again, because that's just going to be the first thing that comes to mind. And I'm just going to lose it.
Well, maybe that's the right order you can order at Melt.
Oh, that's a low blow.
And for the record, I didn't give you shit for it. Like you said on, not at Evolution, but when you said that Center of the Universe. Because like when you said that, I was like, no, I didn't. I was just like,
Listen.
oh, that's why you had it bad. Like, it wouldn't taste good because that's what you got. Okay. Just, you should have got something else.
Listen, you, Arthur, and Mikey just won't let me live it down, and I know I made a mistake, so...
All right.
Whatever.
Actual question number 3. Do you sleep with your door open or closed?
It's open because there's like a bunch of stuff in the way of it, so I have no choice. And also, the door to the upstairs in my room goes up to where my nephew sleeps, so I'd have to keep it open anyway, because he like is an 18 or 19, no, he's almost 19, almost 19-year-old that smokes weed and plays video games, so he's like always up throughout the night. Mm-hmm. So even if I could shut my door, I'd have to keep it open because he'd be opening it and closing it all the time. So,
what's your preference though?
Anything open is fine. I don't care either way, but I'm just so used to it being open that being open doesn't change anything.
It fascinated me when I found out people slept with their door open, because I grew up with my room being like right off the living room. So like my dad would stay up later than my bedtime, obviously, like especially when I was younger. So obviously like, all right, time to go to bed. So the light's on in the living room, the TV's on in the living room. Like you don't want that peeking in. And like my bed was like right by the door too. So that would have just keep me up. So that was
my room's right by the kitchen, so that sucks too.
That was my norm for so many years, and when I found out people slept with their door open, I was like, what? But why? And now, because I have a cat, and I've learned like it's hard to sleep with the door closed, because that cat's just going to meow all night long. So now I've learned to sleep the door open. Question number 4. I can't remember if I've asked this or not on It's Evolution, Baby. Physical media or digital?
Oh, you haven't. Probably digital. Even though I have a lot of physical media, like much like Righteous Jesse, I collect a lot of VHSs. But I have had to get out of the habit of doing that just because I became such a hoarder, and my house is very tiny, so I don't have a lot of space. So it's just much more, easier to just do digital copies of media.
I'm a huge fan that we're in an era where a lot of things are selling you the physical copy, but they're giving you a digital copy. So, like, you get best of both worlds. Because I love physical media. Besides, I was in printing at one point. So, me, I kind of look at that as that's jobs for some people. I also love being able to hold something and be like, this is mine. I own it. I can look at it like, it's almost like, which it does not work digitally, like cards. Like, if you're holding, like, a baseball card or a football card, like, you're like, it feels different, or just you have no emotional, if it's like, oh, I hold this digital card, which I know they have, and it's like, that part's weird. But to hold, like, also to, like, music. If I really like an artist, I'll try to go out and buy a physical copy, even if I've maybe bought it digitally or with, like, Apple Music. Like, okay, I don't own it, but I could at least listen to it legally, but I can go out and, like, buy a physical copy at the same time.
I totally get that. Yeah, that's how I am with, like, my VHS tapes, and then I also used to collect cassette tapes. which is also really cool because like my car is a 99, so I have a CD player and a cassette player.
Nice.
So I would listen to my cassette tapes a lot. But also another thing I needed to be careful with because I would start hoarding things because we have a Goodwill outlet here, and I can buy all these amazing things that I'm obsessed with super cheap. And my mom gets mad at would get mad at me when I would always come home with new random treasures. So I've had to be careful with all of that. But I love some good physical media, especially because there's a lot of VHSs that I have, and I'm like, it's just nostalgic. Just not just the VHS itself, but just like the movie in general and just like everything about it, like wrapped into one is just like so pure.
Mm-hmm. I like also owning old things that I used to own as a kid, whether it be like I rebought a Talk Boy because I love the Talk Boy, but also
sick.
I want to try to buy like a lot of the VHSs I owned as a kid because I have like certain memories to them, like 2 of my favorite movies, Ghostbusters and Tommy Boy. Like, I know I watched a lot on VHS. I want them on VHS. But, like, I've not delved into that, especially, like, I've always told Jesse that, like, him collecting VHSs is like this peer pressure sometimes where I'm just like, oh, I kind of want to start doing that. Kind of want to go out and buy VHSs because for the most part, they're fairly cheap. Mm-hmm. Depending on what you're looking for. Like, oh yeah, I mentioned SummerSlam 92. That's one that's like, it's not cheap. Because people know, like, oh, it's a great SummerSlam. It's a wrestling VHS, so like those the people will not sell it for that cheap unless you stumble upon the right thing. But that's just hard.
Oh yeah, totally true.
All right, question number 5. The thing is, I think I've asked most of these, but I don't remember. Maybe I've asked this one. This is one of my favorite questions. Wings, bone in or out?
Out. I'm so creeped out by bone-in wings. Like when my teeth touch the bone, it's just oh my god. I'll eat them. Don't get me wrong, because Papa Kinway makes the best wings ever, and he brings them to like Glory Pro and Anarchy and feeds the locker room before shows. And his wings are the best, so I will make an exception for those because they are so good. Oh, and I'll make an exception if I'm like somewhere and like that's like what someone made. Like I'm not rude about it. But it is not my preference because just like my teeth touching the bone just is weird. I can't even. And it's just easier to eat bone out. So
for the longest time of asking this question, bone has been like one of the top responses. But probably within the past 9 months, more and more people are coming out. And it's really cool to like get the reasons why they like bone in. Me, I'm barbaric. Give me bone in, but sometimes like some of these reasons why people don't like them is good. Like that's one. I think Derek, director, he had something similar of like a teeth sensitivity, and that's one reason why he doesn't like them. Then there's people that are just like they feel like they get more for their money and it's cleaner. Like they can enjoy boneless wings with a fork, and you can't really do the same with bone-in.
Yeah, those are like definitely like my other reasonings for it. And plus, I love me some chicky nuggies. So
I did have the question on here, but I know I asked it on the show. Rank of the fast food chicken nuggets: McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's. Oh yeah. And you are anti-McDonald's, which saddens me because to me that's my favorite. And on top of it,
I'm not extremely anti-McDonald's. It just so it all just starts with me and Black Label Mikey, him thinking that McDonald's is just like the greatest, and he thinks that it's better than Wendy's, and that just struck a chord with me. And I'm like, bruh, no, like it's really not. But like I don't hate McDonald's. I just don't prefer it. They do have good chicken nuggies, and they've got some good burgers, and their fries are good. Their fries are better than Wendy's. But Wendy's new breakfast potato wedges fuck the hardest and trump everything.
I need to try their breakfast menu. I haven't had a chance.
Do it. It's so good.
As much as I love McDonald's breakfast menu, because I love the McGriddle.
So good.
And there's a couple other things. Like I think the McMuffins are pretty good too. When they were doing,
I really like. They have a good bagel sandwich that oh God, I love that. I will admit that I eat that. Oh, it's so good.
But when Taco Bell came out with a breakfast menu and everybody was just like, yeah, whatever, that breakfast crunch wrap, oh, give me that 9 times out of 10. Like I said,
yeah, seriously.
I love all those breakfast stuff from McDonald's, even Burger King and their croissant wedges. I love those. I used to have a company that was really close to a Burger King, so every morning, like I kind of, like not every morning, like at least I think every Friday morning, I used to go and buy 2 croissant wedges before my shift because I love those things.
Those are good too.
But Taco Bell, I thought the waffle taco was going to be the best. It wasn't. Everything they come out with, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. No, like that crunch wrap, oh, it's just so good. Love it.
That is good. Now I want to go somewhere for breakfast tomorrow. Damn it. I'll probably do Taco Bell. I haven't done Taco Bell breakfast in a while. But yeah, you definitely do need to try Wendy's breakfast. I highly recommend it.
There's one not too far from my work, but like I pass almost nothing on my way to work because of the route I take. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely going to have to eventually do that because I'm always willing to try breakfast stuff because breakfast is like, I think can be the best meal of the day. Like that you can do it like any time because like you actually have to have like real breakfast. Like I love cereal, but
oh yeah,
like if you can have like sausage and eggs and hash browns and all that kind of stuff, like I love that shit.
When I was in Cleveland, me and Mikey went to Friends, and I've recently become obsessed with Eggs Benedict, and they had this like version, and it was like with scrambled eggs, and it was like with a croissant, and I was like, this is the best thing I ever had, and I think about it almost every day, and I wish that it wasn't 8 hours away because I crave it all the time.
I've never been there, but I'm going to have to try it.
I highly recommend it, and I just, why does it have to be 8 hours away? Fuck. God damn it. But yeah, it's just, it's so good.
And that's a long trip too. I haven't driven to St. Louis in forever, but I've driven to Nashville, and that's pretty close.
Yeah. And I did that Cleveland drive by myself to and from, and that sucked.
I'm weird. I kind of like it. Like when I went to Black Label, I've had Charlie with me, but when I went to SUP, it was just me. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because of my job has conditioned me to be used to it. But yeah. To me, that's like, oh, that means I can listen to whatever I want. If I want to stop for a little bit, I can do it. If I want to drive straight through and not have to worry about something like I got to go to the bathroom, like I can do it.
Yeah, that's definitely all like huge pluses for that stuff, for sure. But then it's also really nice to like travel with people and like get that conversation and like switch things up. But then like being alone is definitely a nice like switch up. But I also like, I always complain when I don't get people who will travel with me and I have to like go out of my way to rent a car and like spend all this money just to make it to a show. But then I get like that alone time, which is like really nice to clear my head.
All right. Question number 6 that I tailor around my guest and for you. Let's go with, what's the top 5 things you miss about shows right now?
Being around people that I consider my family, being around the fans, getting to do what I love, watching wrestling live and like getting that atmosphere. And, oh God, I don't know. What would be the 5th? I guess, I would put Spalding Hall Pizza in there as my 5th. I miss that for Anarchy shows.
I need to go to Anarchy. I think this was the year that I was possibly going to attempt it.
Man, you should, oh God, everyone needs to experience an Anarchy show at least once because like you get your different atmospheres at different shows and it's all unique to each show. And I get that, but like Anarchy is special. It really is. And like, it is my home. It is my heart. It's my soul. It's my everything. And like, I say that any and all the time, but like, it is true. It's just like what it is. Just like being in Spalding Hall is just wild. And they deliver the pizza to you in your seat while you're watching wrestling. And like, where else do you get that? Nowhere.
I think my first independent show actually did that, but for the record, I think that place, no, I don't think. I'm fairly sure that place is no longer, like that business isn't even there anymore. So, nowhere.
Exactly.
It's definitely one of those places that had its own reputation. Like, I've had friends in the Kansas City area. They necessarily wouldn't go out there, but I know, like, just that, like, area between Kansas City and St. Luke fans and some of the wrestlers. I've always wanted to go. Like, I forget what the promotion was that used to be in Kansas City before the one wrestling. I even forget the name of the promotion, what Matt Jackson did for a while.
Oh, NWL?
NWL, that's right. Because I always want to say MLW, but, like, that's obviously not the right one. But yeah, like, whatever the Kansas City company was originally called, like, I know I had friends that always wanted me to come out to that.
Oh, Metro Pro.
Yes, Metro Pro, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they always wanted me to go out to there because they're friends with the Regal Twins and Wyatt. Mm-hmm. So I know, like, that's a trip that I want to do, but it always comes down to real life, real world shit. And actually driving out there, especially Kansas City. Like,
yeah, because that's 12 hours.
Yeah. I know, like, that's the crazy thing too with me being a truck driver. Like, I know I could get to those cities. Like, I could drive to St. Louis right now without looking at a map.
Yeah.
Just because I've done it, and really when you know the routes, like, it's like the major highways, it's like, yeah, it's pretty simple. But once I would get to St. Louis or once I would get to Kansas City, I'm like, all right, where the fuck am I going?
Right.
All right, let's wrap this show up. At least this episode went on a lot longer than the original, which I was one of my biggest regrets about that episode. But I feel like we made up for it today.
Yes, absolutely. This was a blast.
Any final thoughts or last minute plugs before we go?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Step Stool Sarah X. Follow my podcast on Twitter at It's Evolution Pod. We're also on all regular, like, podcasting platforms. If you're not signed up for Independent Wrestling TV, which I don't know why you wouldn't be by now, you can use code STEPSTOOL for a 5 free-day trial. Make sure to watch Anarchy, Journey Pro, Subgraphs, Bizarro, Lucha, Freelance Underground, everything good. Go do it. Especially Anarchy, because you can see me ring announce, which is always a treat. And remember that wrestling is for everyone.
And
live, laugh, love, bless this mess.
And, of course, you can find myself at Heavyset330, much like you can find this show at Wrestling Cheers. Facebook.com/Wrestling Cheers, Twitter.com/Wrestling Cheers, and Instagram.com/Wrestling Cheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. And we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net, much like Step Stool Sarah has a shirt over at whatamaneuver.net and on independentwrestling.tv site. Forgot some things.
Oh, yeah. I did that.
Brand new shirt on the IW.
Yes, that also
store.
says that wrestling is for everyone.
I need to get on there and, like, start a cart of, like, all the stuff that I want to buy, because literally a lot of stuff in just the IWTV store I want. So
it's so good.
It's going to be pricey. But anyway, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Check out our friends on the Trending Topics Network, such as All Beer Inside, Eurovision Showcase, Old School at the Movies, and Wrestling with Altitude. Check out our other podcast friends, such as Let the Hate Flow Through You, Pod Van Dam, Super Fantastic Podcast, Road Home from Wrestling, Kick Out at 2, Wrestling Nerds Radio Network featuring The IndieCast and This Makes No Sense, Center of the Universe, Sobros Network, The Co-Host Wrestling Show, Spotlight Series, Not Ready for Primetime Wrestling, At Odds with Wrestling, and It's Evolution, baby. Check out our other non-podcasting friends, such as Thrift Store Jobber, The Savage Dash, Mouse's Wrestling Adventures, Sickening Pictures, Good Company, Stay Tough, Smokin' Jay's Barbecue, Wrestle Void, Midwest Territory, Southern Underground Pro, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers, Moy Boy Designs. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name. And live, laugh, love. Bless this mess. Later.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Would you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go